Right now I'd like to introduce, we're going into our panel with the first responders, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce one of our first responders. His name is John Feal, and John Feal started the Feal Good Foundation, which supports a lot of the first responders. He is fresh off of giving one of his kidneys to help for another first responder, and I guess he likes peanut butter cups, I'm told, or something. So anyway, here he is, John Feal.
I want to thank Damon and everybody who put this together. The trip up here was long and hard, just like our journey over the last 6 years. And with that, Monday, the Feal Good Foundation, along with New York City police officers, firefighters, EMS, anybody affected by 9/11, will be rallying City Hall to show support for Joe Sadroga while he's in the meeting with the mayor after the mayor made those rude comments about James. So if you guys are free Monday, 1 o'clock, you're more than welcome to join us in a rally. With that, I ask everybody to rise and have a moment of silence for the 9/11 responders who have perished since then. Thank you. I have given hundreds of speeches, even more interviews, and I have never once prepared a statement, and I usually just wing this. But a wise old 30-year-old lawyer once told me the best speeches are those that are shortest, where people remember them. I'm not going to sit up here and waste your time. I'm not a 9/11 truther. I'm not, but I support the 9/11 truth movement. But what I am is a 9/11 doer. I'm a 9/11 factor. I took my own pain and suffering, was given another chance to make a difference, to help people less fortunate who can't fight their own battles, and it's become contagious. Politics, religion, separates us all. Even people in the 9/11 truth movement, you're separated by your own opinions. I only hope that you guys all join together so you're that much stronger. Put aside your egos, put aside your differences, come together, and you will be a formidable opponent for the federal government. That takes time. I have my opinions, and they really mean squat right now to anybody who really cares. I can't comment other than innocent people risk their lives without prejudice and are now sick and dying. So while you seek the truth and you seek answers from the government, I got the same questions. Why did you lie to us that the air was safe to breathe, the water was safe to drink? Because really good men and women are dying. You're all out here pretty healthy. You're a good-looking crowd. You all seem articulate and smart and intelligent, and I'm probably mentally challenged compared to all of you. But I got 5 years now, going on 6 years of 9/11 under my belt. I got a PhD in swallowing crap from the government while people are sick and dying. I lost a half a foot. I didn't lose half a brain. I donated a kidney to show while people have nothing, they can still make a difference. I live on Social Security. I've literally almost lost my house twice. I had to go to court. Pretty embarrassing, but I had a smile on my face. Judge said, "Why are you smiling?" I said, "Because there's nothing else you could take from me. You took my livelihood on 9/11. Spent 11 weeks in the hospital. While you were watching that on TV, I was laying in the hospital. Almost died of a septic, organ shut down. Gangrene. I thought that was something from the 1800s with a gunshot wound. I really didn't know what gangrene was. I'm an expert on it now. But I'm also an expert on people sick and dying. The Feal Good Foundation, other than Sean, is made up of 9/11 responders who are sick and dying, post-traumatic respiratory cancers. We have proven, while the federal government sits idle, their lack of compassion, their lies, their corruption, their whatever, keep going. We have proven that we can help each other, we can support each other, we can police each other. Let that be contagious to the movement that you all seek. Join together. Do not fight with each other. Let the compassion and your zest and your spirit for what you believe to be true join together. Last night I was sitting there listening to 6 people, all in the movement, but 6 different ideas, 6 different opinions. Now, you can't have a relationship without disagreeing with anybody, whether it's your wife, your husband, your friend, worker, co-worker. You have to have disagreements, but you have to share the same common goal, and you have to do it together, not segregated, or you're never going to get anywhere. I've been doing this 6 years now, and it's painful, but the thrill is fun, fighting. The fight in me is bigger than this room. We will continue to help people. I have made 60 donations this year to 9/11 responders. I think that's 60 more than the government.
Are they paying any of the benefits, the government?
No, you direct those questions to the lawyer who sits there and helps them with their benefits. The man to my left is not only my lawyer, but he's one of my closest friends. And in the 4 months that he's been with us, 5 months, we've sent him 70 clients. But on top of that, he's helped 713 9/11 cases. So I don't think of him as a lawyer, and that is his title. I think of him as a confidant, as somebody who stands by me, sees my vision to help people, whether it's workman's comp, Social Security, crime victims, pensions. And it sounds like easy, okay, that's an easy benefit. If you were working at Home Depot and you had a box fall on your head, you can get workman's comp or Social Security faster than a 9/11 responder, which I cannot fathom, swallow, digest, and take in, because that's just criminal. Every day we fight and advocate for these guys to get the basic benefits they deserve. It's sad. There's more sad stories at the Feal Good Foundation than there are good. I told you I made 60 donations, but if you've seen the people we made these donations to, they're sick, they're dying. They can't even put food on the table. They can't keep their utilities on. Then they got a doctor's appointment. They can't even get there because they don't have gas to put in their car. You all came here. You all spent $6 at lunch. But if you all spent $6 helping a 9/11 responder and put it in that jar, that help a lot of people. Help a lot of people. And the Feal Good Foundation is not a bank. Our thought of fundraising never even occurred. We wanted to advocate. We wanted to help people get basic benefits. It's the American people in this room and around the country that have helped the Feal Good Foundation. Now we make donations. Now we do fundraisers. It's the American people that make this country great. It's not the federal government. It's not the state or local governments. It's you people. You're Americans before your truth is. You're Americans before you think the towers came down or the building 7 or this or that. You're Americans. Your neighbor's sick, your neighbor's hurting, you should go over there and bring him a cup of soup and $1 and say, God bless you, I love you, anything else. Giving is contagious. And to give, you actually have to care. It's about compassion for one another. It's believing in each other. And I hope in the coming months that you guys can all put aside your differences. I read all my emails. I look at all the blogs. I look at all the websites. Too much animosity. Too much backstabbing. You're not going to get anywhere with that. And don't worry about what people say. Oh, the mainstream media this. Bill Clinton said that. Bill Maher said that. Bill O'Reilly. Listen, look at those people who are attacking you. When they did that to me, I just turned the cheek. Bill O'Reilly is so far right, who cares? Who cares? Bill Clinton's the next president. Who cares what he says? He's done. He's out of office. Who cares? Mainstream media doesn't cover the, blah, blah, blah. Let me tell you a little story. 90% of the reporters I know, and I deal with the media every day, they actually think one thing or another that you guys share. They're just not allowed to report it. Their bosses don't allow them. So the higher you go up in corporation, that's where your problems lie. But don't blame mainstream media, the average reporter. Blame corporate America where it becomes political. And the rest is history with that, because I'm not smart enough to really dissect that. On September 17th, 8,000 pounds of steel crushed my foot, and it hurt like the bejesus. What I thought altered my life for the worst after a year of therapy, because I was cuckoo. I'm not going to lie to you. I wanted to kill myself. Why me? Why me? All those guys that got the respiratories and the cancers, I had that physical injury. But I kept saying to myself, why are they denying me? I have a physical injury. It's proof. It's proof. There's a half of my foot laying in someone's medical jar now with proof. How do you deny that? But then I'm sitting at McDonald's having a number 2. True story. And I'm sitting there feeling sorry for myself. And in walks this man, probably about my age. I'm 40. He's got 2 daughters. One is normal as day. Beautiful little girl. The other one was severely handicapped. And they're sitting there. And I'm watching there, eating my number 2. And the father never helped the girl once. And I'm not even exaggerating this. On my only kidney, it took her about 45 minutes to put a French fry in her mouth. It took about another half an hour to get her mouth over the straw. The daughter or the father never helped this girl. This girl was born like that. She had no choice. And I'm saying to myself, I'm feeling sorry for myself. I lost half a foot, blah, blah, blah. 9/11 happened. Oh, why me? That girl had more courage, compassion, fight than I've ever seen in another person. I wish I would have met her. I wish I had the nerve to go up to them and say thank you. Because from that moment on, they changed my life. But in that same week, my mother, who was my everything, she was my father, my best friend, she was diagnosed with cancer. In that same week, my dog that was given to me after 9/11, after I got out of the hospital to cheer me up, got Lyme disease. And I'm on crutches, I'm in a cast. I just had my Achilles tendon cut in 3 places, so my deformed foot would do this. And I'm feeling sorry for myself, and I'm seeing all of this unravel in front of me. And I made it through there without one pill. I've been diagnosed by 4 doctors with post-traumatic, and I've yet to take a pill for it. I've had over 30 surgeries, whether it's donating a kidney, having a double hernia operation, feet surgeries, and I have yet to take a painkiller. You will not drug me. You will not alter my state, because you cannot fight when you're altered. And to fight, you got to be united. And to be united, you got to listen to each other. And to listen to each other, you have to put aside your differences. And to put aside your differences, you have to open your mind and your eyes and your heart. You all mean so well. Individually, I talk to all of you. Individually, I don't hold squat to you when it comes to intellect. But reach down, reach down. Inside there's compassion. It's a little button, you press it. And it makes you that much better of a person. And then there's nothing that can stop you at all. Thank you.
I met John, or first heard of John in January of 2007 when I was challenged by a debunker to put my money where my mouth is, because I was constantly talking about the environmental impact and the issues the first responders were having. So, you know, I said, you know what, you're right. And so I held a fundraiser and then 2 more. And the Feal Good Foundation, I mean, they just helped Charlie Giles How much did you give him?
Us or everybody together?
Well, everybody.
Probably over 10 grand.
$10,000 for a man who was about to lose his home after being just 1 month late on his mortgage. This is a first responder who went down. That's just one example of what the Feal Good Foundation does and what the government is not doing. This Monday at City Hall, did you talk about this?
I think I mentioned it.
This Monday, City Hall, 1 p.m. in Manhattan, the Zadroga family is going to be speaking with Mayor Michael Bloomberg. And we want everyone who can make it to go down there and to support the Zadroga family, because what they're doing to their son's memory is disgraceful. I'll give you a brief little history of James Zadroga. In January of 2006, James Zadroga passed away. He had black lung disease. And I think in March of 2006, a New Jersey medical examiner autopsied his body and found that he did in fact die from exposure to the toxic dust down at ground zero. And I think he was the first person labeled the first casualty of the environmental impact of 9/11. There are several lawsuits taking place right now, and Sean will talk about this later. The Zadroga family went to the New York medical examiner, Dr. Charles Hirsch, and asked him to verify the findings of the New Jersey medical examiner. And lo and behold, Dr. Charles Hirsch said, quote, "With certainty beyond doubt, this man did not die from the toxic dust down at ground zero." Even though we've had 1, 2, how many more medical examiners confirm the New Jersey medical's findings?
I think it's 3 in total.
Oh, 3 in total.
Yeah.
3 total have confirmed the findings of the New Jersey medical examiner. And the way that Dr. Charles Hirsch worded that, it almost sounded as if it was meant to fight the legal battles that are taking place. When this happened, when Dr. Charles Hirsch said that he didn't die, Mayor Michael Bloomberg said that he was distancing himself from that his office had absolutely nothing to do with it. A week later, it was found that Dr. Charles Hirsch said that Joe Zadroga, NYPD, who spent 470 hours down at the pile, killed himself by using intravenous drugs, by being a junkie, essentially, slandering this man's name. This man's name has been used to start 9/11 bills in Washington, D.C. It's disgraceful. But Michael Bloomberg, who said that he was distancing himself from Dr. Charles Hirsch's findings, said 3 days ago that the science says that this man was not a hero. And that, when I read that, I was absolutely infuriated. So please, if you can be in New York City on Monday at 1 p.m. to support the Zadroga family, please do so.
And wear red.
And wear red. I think we have questions for the first responders and Sean. Sean?
I'm really here to answer your questions about any of the legalities that are facing the first responders. I would like to thank you for a round of applause earlier. And no, save it, because I'm so used to, when you hear trial attorney, I get the hisses that I've heard all morning, usually. So thank you. It's very refreshing. To answer your question, what was your name? John. Posed the question earlier, are they getting paid the benefits which, you know, so many of them need? And the bottom line is no. A good example of what's happening is Charlie Giles. Charlie Giles is a man who was a first responder. He was an EMT, and he was down there. And really by 2002, early 2002, he's sick. He tried to work through it until 2006. And now he's losing his home. He's been out of work for about a year and a half. And here's the problem. He filed some form, he thinks, in 2002 for workers' compensation. He had no idea that Social Security disability benefits are out there. Crime Victims Board benefits is a great program we have in New York where if you are the victim of a crime and you have lost earned income, the state will reimburse you up to $30,000 and will pay for your medical bills. Charlie Giles had absolutely no idea that these benefits were available to him. He is losing his home, more likely than not, on November 20th. And I will guarantee you, if Charlie Giles had met me or somebody else, or John Feal, about a year ago, Charlie Giles and his 2 little girls would not be losing their home today. So here's the problem. The information is not out there. These guys don't know what to do. In June of this year, well, let me backtrack. There are estimates. Nobody knows the exact number. There's estimates of about over 100,000 workers and volunteers worked between September 11th and May of 2002. In June of this year, you had to have filed your workers' compensation notice of participation in order to get workers' compensation in the future if you do become sick. Of that over 100,000 person estimate, only 20,000 people had even filed their notice of participation. Meaning, if anybody had gotten sick later on, 2009, and they went to the hospital, and they said, oh, well, you have symptoms that relate to World Trade Center. And they said, okay, well, I'll go file workers' compensation benefits. Workers' compensation would have turned around and said, sorry, you're on your own. Hospital would have said, well, who do we bill? Do we bill workers' compensation? Workers' compensation says, no, sorry, they missed the statute of limitations. Guess who's paying those medical bills? Those first responders. That's humongous. There needs to be a movement, much like the Feal Good Foundation, but with all of you guys as well, to notify any first responders that you have to file the proper paperwork. One of the good things Eliot Spitzer has done since he's gotten to the office of governor is that he extended that statute of limitations till 2008. Okay, so June 13th, 2008. If, and I've been told by good sources, that will no longer be extended. So we need to move that 20,000 up closer to the 100,000 to protect all these guys. And we need to get the information out there that, listen, these benefits exist for you. Don't lose your homes. Don't become overwhelmed in debt where you have absolutely no credit. Go speak to somebody. That's one of the biggest things that we at the Feal Good Foundation, besides generating benefit money for people, and when I say benefits, the benefits that we run, $10,000 for Charlie Giles and others, we need to make other people aware that these benefits are out there for them so that they can save their own lives financially. And that's it. I'm on the board of directors of the Feal Good Foundation, so always go to thefealgoodfoundation.com.
Damon, those flyers that are on my table, and maybe if you can give them to the crowd,
Let me say one last thing before we move to the questions. I've heard a lot of talk about contacting your representatives. I also implore all of you to contact your representatives. Let's see if we can get some things done for the first responders to expedite these cases. Because once they even get to me, I'm looking at 2 years. These guys don't have 2 years before they even get benefits. We are facing strong litigation on the opposing side. Call your representatives. There are bills before the House of Representatives right now that need to be supported for first responders, for their medical monitoring, for continued funding, and for the civilians who are down there, who nobody's keeping track of. All the people who were south of Canal Street on that day. There's no information really out there about their physical state. So please call your representatives, back those bills, and support further bills in first responders' names.
There's a question here. Please raise your hand if this is your question. I was a first responder on 9/11 and developed respiratory problems. I was an independent RN nurse and have no health care. Is it only the union firemen who are lobbying for benefits? Whose question is that? Maybe John could get together with you later and give you some help.
Well, and to answer that, absolutely not. It's not just firefighters, policemen. It's anybody, really, that worked down there or volunteered down there. That's another one of the myths. It's volunteers as well are covered by these bills.
Have you enrolled in a screening program? Where do you live? Well, that's two different issues. One, you need to take care of yourself and getting the proper benefits. One, getting screened at Mount Sinai or Bellevue Hospital, going through the physical and being documented. So you're entitled to what cops and firemen, construction workers, and EMTs are entitled to. What you do after that, whatever you protest and advocate for, you know, God bless you. But right now, I think your number one priority is getting yourself checked out. Thank you.
Why haven't more first responders gone public with their stories? Or have we just not heard them?
I think there's been a real dearth of stories coming out. And really, this man to my right has been the one propelling them to the media. There's not enough stories told, but I think the media is starting to cover these. And really, we have seen a large fluctuation of people becoming sick now. And we're talking 6 years later. But people who are developing inability to breathe properly, people who are really now suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, we're getting to the top of that bell curve. And now is, you know, when the stories are starting to come out, because this is when people are, a lot of the first responders are starting to become sick.
Understand, everybody's immune system's different. There were people that were there for a day. There were people that were there for 6 months. One is sick, one isn't sick. There were people that got sick 4 years later. So it takes time. I'm not a doctor or a scientist, but you know, when your immune system's different and you fight different diseases, everybody's different. I was there for 5 days. I didn't get sick. Knock on wood. I got hurt. But I know somebody who was there for 2 days, needs a double lung transplant. I know somebody that was there for a year, nothing's wrong with them. So 5, 6 years down the road, you know, unexplainably, you're getting sick with asthma or some sort of blood cancer or some serious respiratory problem. It just proves that everybody's immune system's different. Sean once said, the further we get away from 9/11, the more catastrophic it becomes to help these people. Their old employee doesn't acknowledge that they were there. No one wants to foot the bill for workman's comp or, you know, Social Security. So it's harder for them to get help. And that's where we come in. We get them enrolled in Mount Sinai or Bellevue or out on Long Island or in New Jersey. If you're from out of state, we'll get you a satellite hookup from your doctor to Mount Sinai. We will get you help. But it takes everybody's part in helping them. Yes.
Sorry, hold on. How many first responders are seriously ill? How many are dying? How many have died? And can you comment on the EPA's Kate Jenkins' work?
I put it in John's terms because I'm a simple man. If you took 40,000 people and put them in Yankee Stadium, you might have some hereditary cancers and some heart attacks. You took 40,000 people that worked the pile, and 70% of them have some sort of respiratory disease. That's not a coincidence. There are thousands that have respiratory problems. There are thousands that have some sort of cancer. Most of them suffer from post-traumatic. Is there anybody that has an exact number? I highly doubt that. And as for the EPA, wow, excuse my language, they suck. Really. I mean, you know, Christy Todd Whitman was that's proof in the pudding. I mean, she lied. But the bottom line is, human life took a backseat to economics. And they wanted Wall Street up and running, and, you know, hey, we paid for it. You know, and Sean might be able to give you more statistics on how many people are sick, because it's thousands.
The real answer is nobody knows. Nobody knows. As I said before, of 100,000 possible people who volunteer to work down there, we have 20,000 that we're even monitoring, that we're looking at. So we don't have a real number as far as how many people are even sick at this point. Somebody, a guy came forward to me 2 days ago. He's sick now. And he was telling me about his friend, who he worked side by side down there, who died in 2002. I said, what did he die of? Cancer. He had unexplained lung cancer. I said, well, what was ever done about him? What was the autopsy? Was there ever an investigation of his lung tissue, anything? No. So we don't know. The bottom line is we don't know. I mean, deaths like this, quite frankly, could have been natural, simple causal relationship to hereditary DNA, as John had said. But it could have been linked to the World Trade Center. We don't know. And there's not going to be an answer out there as far as official numbers. But fortunately, to quote somebody who I don't think is popular in this room, one is more than we can bear, and that more than we should bear. We really need to, if there's one, it's one too many. We need to help all these people.
I actually have a question, and it comes up very often. What exactly does Mount Sinai Hospital do for first responders?
Well, one, they're the leading medical facility in helping 9/11 responders. I sit on the advisory board of Mount Sinai, which I'm still shocked that they even asked me to. They're damned if they do and they're damned if they don't, because they get federal money, and then they're told what to do with that money. And I'm not a doctor, and once again, I don't claim to be smarter than anybody here, but preventive medicine and treatment is the only way to cure people. I don't know if you got a cold, I'd probably give you cold medicine. Data and monitoring does not save lives, but they do a lot of that. A lot of them are monitored and a lot of data going on and really not a lot of treatment. But they have turned the corner where they are starting the treatment. They felt the pressure, and that is happening. And Bellevue has just opened up, and they got federal money. And they handle a lot of civilians and ladies like you who can go in there and get that 6-hour physical and get screened, get your lungs checked, see if you got post-traumatic, see if there's anything else wrong with you. So, yeah, slowly it's happening, but more needs to be done. You know, if you had a headache for a week and you came to me and I gave you an aspirin, I'm not helping you. I'm just prolonging your problem. I should be doing a CAT scan on your brain. I should be seeing why you're getting these headaches. And that's kind of what's happening, but it is getting better. But no, they don't have enough money to treat everybody. Wednesday, we had an advisory board meeting at Mount Sinai, and we couldn't make it, but my senior vice president, Anne-Marie Bauman, was there, and her husband is a retired NYPD at 43 years old, had triple bypass, severe respiratory problems, post-traumatic, tried to commit suicide, and they have a 12-year-old son who emulates that. He tried to commit suicide. This woman took her own pain and suffering and joined me. And if you would have met this woman today, you would see Mother Teresa reincarnated. That's how great this woman is. But she went to Mount Sinai with $1,000, and believe me, from the millions that they get from the government, our $1,000 is minuscule. But they were very appreciative that we gave them $1,000 and made sure that it would go to treatment to a 9/11 responder.
I often say that victories in 9/11 truth are very few and far between, but every dollar given to help a 9/11 first responder is the equivalent of 100 victories. So I hope if everybody who can gave. Have you tried getting the announcement of benefits access on Air America Radio, Tom Hartman, Randy Rhodes, etc.?
April of 2005, I think it was. I did a interview with Air America Radio, and I think they're really cool. And I got a call. It was an hour-long show, and I got a call in from, you know, those call-ins from around the country. Somebody asked me, what do I think of Christy Todd Whitman? And I said, Christy Todd Whitman should go to jail for manslaughter. And everybody was like, John, don't you think that's a little harsh, blah, blah, blah. Oh, my God, I caught so much flack. But a few months later, Congressman Nadler was like, Christy Todd Whitman should go to jail for manslaughter, and then everybody put him on a pedestal like he was great, like he thought of something, like he invented the light bulb. And I said to myself, I said that first, you So whether it's Air America, Amy Goodman, Juan Gonzalez, we get the word out there. I've been on TV 100 times. It's redundant. I don't really talk about myself. I talk about those that are sick and dying. That's what's important. We're talking about human life, people. Before you're a doctor, a lawyer, a cop, you're a human being. And it's your parents. You raise them to know right from wrong. I didn't need 9/11 to know right from wrong. I needed 9/11 to show everybody what my mother taught me and how she raised me. And that is to help a stranger. That is to pick somebody up. If you were on fire, I would throw a rag, a towel, or a blanket on you, or throw a bucket of water on your ass. The federal government is letting 9/11 responders on fire run around while they have a bucket of water in their hands, and they're not doing squat diddly. So yeah, we get the word out.
Good question. The citizens who are in the area and or live in the area probably have the same percentage of sickness. What are they doing about it? Aren't the life insurance companies also complaining about early life insurance payoffs?
Well, listen, insurance companies, I'm sure, are complaining about early life insurance payoffs. They don't want to pay you a dime. But here, again, there's a definite lack of information with the civilians. And that is because they don't fall under any of these bills that currently exist. They don't get workers' compensation. And really, they're not being monitored by Mount Sinai or anybody else because they were not first responders. As I said before, earlier, is it called the Zadroga bill? I'm not even sure. Yeah, the Zadroga bill, who Mr. Gold was talking about earlier, will cover those people. And it's extremely important that we add their numbers to those of the first responders to really start to see the effects of 9/11 on everybody who is in those neighborhoods. They don't exist right now. We're looking at a very small segment of the first responder community first, and we're looking at an even smaller segment of the overall community who inhaled these toxins. So we don't know what the civilians are doing. And again, I urge you to back that bill, have your representatives back that bill in Congress.
The 9/11 truth movement, often labeled as conspiracy junkies or crazies, this label causes people to want to distance themselves from 9/11 truth. It seems wise to unify 9/11 truthers with all 9/11 first responders. Why don't you consider yourself a 9/11 truther? What's the potential for such unification?
Yeah, I'll take that one. 9/11 responders have been denied benefits for the last 6 years. When they look at other people that are healthy complaining about 9/11, keep in mind that they're dealing with post-traumatic. So the anger issues that they suffer, the basic foundation for competent thinking and dissecting things might not come out. But if you ask them all individually, yeah, they all think something's wrong with the government. There was lying that day. There was lying after that. 9/11 truthers aren't wacky. I think I said it before. There's nothing wrong with 9/11 truthers. You just got to learn to work together. But in the 9/11 responder community, the 9/11 truth movement, any other 9/11 organization, there's a couple of bad seeds that give people bad names. But who cares, really? When you go to bed and wake up, if you're happy with yourself, who really cares what people say about you? If you honestly believe what you're doing is right, then continue to do it and do it harder each day. If I stopped and listened to everybody that said something negative about me, I wouldn't be talking to you here today. I'd be home rolled up in a fetus position in my bed.
Like usual.
Asking the federal government to help me like everybody else. You guys, you people need to put on blinders, and you need to just focus your energies on what you want to do and just move forward each day. You get knocked down, get back up.
Maybe you could tell somebody or tell the audience what you said often. Why do you support the 9/11 Truth Movement?
I support anybody who seeks the truth and justice. Listen, I do not focus my energies on what happened on 9/11. But yes, on September 10th, September 11th, there's a lot of fishy things. A lot of bad people did a lot of bad things. I'm really pissed off at the terrorists for what they did to us, but I'm even more pissed off at the government for what they're not doing to help human life. We attack other countries for genocide and mass murder, but we are on the verge of letting that happen to really good Americans. So yeah, I'm pissed off.
The reason I ask that is John usually responds by saying, well, why wouldn't you support somebody who's seeking the truth and justice?
Well, why wouldn't you? I'm serious. Why wouldn't you? You're seeking the truth. You're seeking justice. In your own way, you're doing what I'm doing. You want answers. I want answers. You want the truth. I want the truth. I want to help people. I want to help people who can't fight for themselves. I want to help people. Listen, I'm not going to invent a pill that's going to save their lives. I'm not going to give them enough money in the world that's going to take away their pain. But damn, they need a little dignity. They need a little pride. They need a little love. They need a little compassion. They need goddamn food on their table. They need to keep a utility on. A lot of them are on machines that require electricity. When the electric bill goes off, they get sicker and they die. That's just so un-American to me. We have more money than we know what to do with, and they just bitch and moan that we have no money to help people. You got money to kill, you got money to save lives. You can't find it, then make it. Damn, there's a machine that makes money. All you got to do is print it out, rolls out, and you fucking send it to Washington and give it to New York. Excuse my language.
How can we help to get out the full story film that was partly shown on Sierra Club Chronicles?
The Sierra Club Chronicles movie's been out for 2 years. And it was fun making. And I don't know if anybody's seen that movie, but it's only a half an hour long. But they filmed us for about 40 hours. And it's a shame that they only showed a half hour. But that movie was about getting $125 million back in 2005 that the White House took away from New York State because we didn't use it fast enough, which I've never even heard of anything like that, and Sean probably can explain that better. But the Bush administration took $125 million in workman's comp from New York because New York State didn't use it fast enough. So we went to Washington, and they taught us how to lobby, and we walked around the halls of Congress. I got to speak on the floor. First words out of my mouth was, "Shame on you, Mr. President." Everybody paused. Everybody looked around, and then I got a ravishing round of applause, and I followed it up with, "I don't care if you're the Pope, my mother," and I named off 10 other people. If you're wrong, you're wrong. George Bush is wrong. The White House is wrong. This is not Republican. This is not Democrat. This is human life. This is your friend, your neighbor, your cousin, your brother, your sister. If they're sick, you help them. You help them. That's it.
What is the latest on the, quote, gag order of FDNY on speaking out?
I have absolutely no idea as to what.
Don't know. But in the beginning, 2002, 3, 4, even going to 5, a lot of cops and firemen declined to do interviews, even when they were sick, because they were afraid their pensions, they wouldn't get their pensions, their half, their three-quarters. A lot of them that did get their pensions after winning, after a couple years of fighting, now come out and speak. It's hard for a guy that has 3 or 4 kids and was the breadwinner while his wife was staying home. It's hard to ask him to come out and speak, tell his story, and then have some higher-up say, "Don't say that, you're not going to get your pension." That's criminal. That's my only analogy. That's the only way I could think of why, you know.
I think you kind of already answered this, but what are the tests that determine sickness specifically related to 9/11? And do difficulties emerge in proving they are from 9/11 to get workers' comp, etc.?
Absolutely. The answer to that question is let's start with the lungs quickly. I'm not going to bore you all with the testing and the rigidity of the different laws to prove what's called causal relationship. It's cold in here, and I know you all just ate, so you'll be asleep by the time I would be done. There is absolutely rigid definitions of what is and is not certain standards for Social Security, for workers' compensation. And we are really fighting those on an everyday basis as to whether or not people are permanently incapacitated. There are people who are firefighters who, what's known as a pulmonary function test, they can blow in 80% of what's normal, and they're considered disabled. The same test for a volunteer or a civilian, it's going to be at 50, and then they're considered permanently disabled. Well, you know, those tests don't tell the whole story. Objective testing doesn't take into account the clinical testing that your doctor and that you see every morning when you wake up and you're coughing and you can barely breathe and you have to take a nebulizer, and the post-traumatic stress disorder. I mean, how do you quantify the level of somebody's mental anguish? You're seeing every day denials because you can't quantify that. It's not until I get to a judge and I have to give testimony or get somebody up on the stand who's weeping that you really get to see that. So it is very, very difficult to prove these things, and certainly we face that every day.
Keep in mind, 9/11 is unprecedented. Whether they lied and there's corruption, whatever you want to believe, but keep in mind, no doctor or workman's comp or Social Security knew what was going to happen after 9/11. There's no doctor who could say he was an expert on what we inhaled. Nobody went to school for 9/11 to know that was trained enough to say, oh, yeah, this guy's got this in his lungs. I've seen this all the time. No, you haven't. You haven't. So they take a guy and they see what he's in his lungs, and then they compare it to the next 30, 40,000. And that's what's happening. And in the beginning, they said, oh, it's just a coincidence that these two guys have a rare form of cancer. Now, hundreds of people have pulmonary fibrosis. I never even knew what pulmonary fibrosis was. I still can't even spell the word. But it's pretty nasty. It's pretty nasty.
And take the Zadroga case, for example. The medical examiner is saying that he is a drug addict because they found talc and cellulose in his lungs. Well, the point by the other medical examiners are, guess what they find in crushed concrete?
Talc.
And cellulose. Okay? So now we have a man who was a detective who worked over 470 hours, whose name's being dragged through the mud, because this guy says, well, that talc and cellulose is only otherwise found in people who inject drugs into their body. Well, guess what? We have to take a new picture of what these guys ingested. I myself have never taken in talc and cellulose from crushed concrete as I was running away from a building or trying to save my life. Okay? So you can't, if you found talc and cellulose in my lungs, I'm a drug addict. You can't take that same picture with first responders. It's unfair, and that's why I hope you'll all be there on Monday to rally that those findings are unfair.
Yep. We have only 5 minutes left. How many first responders have been able to get disabilities and state benefits?
Well,
Not enough.
Yeah, listen, as I said before, the litigation continues for hundreds and really thousands of first responders, but we've been very successful in getting them those benefits. The problem is, like I said before, it's litigation, and litigation takes years. Okay, you get the insurance company who wants to fight this case. We can't prove the volunteer was down there, or the city of New York who says, well, you're not permanently incapacitated. The problem is time. We're successful. We're good at what we do. Okay, but these guys don't have years. They have months, if not days, to get these benefits, and that's what we need to do. We need to expedite these cases.
I would very much like to thank Sean and Sean for making themselves available today.
And John, I want to thank Damon and everybody who put this together. I want to thank everybody at We Are Change, because you know how I feel about you guys. You rock. You guys really do rock. I want to thank Betsy for always. I finally got to meet this lady, and a lot of these I never get to meet. But if I'm forgetting anybody, John knows me. I'm the most thankful person in the world. I'm thankful to walk, get out of bed every day, and just breathe, and just keep doing what you're doing, and stay on that right path. And you guys will achieve.
Thank you for having us.